Hello, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our second edition of our Apple Insight sessions. All the new products and breakout technologies that has launched by Apple last period. We're gonna highlight them in this webinar. We saw a lot of new products, new software updates, etc. And together with Jordi today, our Apple Solution Architect at Lab9 Pro, we're gonna highlight those things and we're gonna give it an overview to keep everyone on point and up to date about the new products and technologies that has been launched. The webinar is very interactive today, so if you have any questions, remarks, thoughts, you can put them in our chat, and then we can answer them actually live or after the webinar. We're gonna have some interaction because you're gonna see a lot of cool stuff during this webinar. The webinar is also recorded, so you can review everything or replay everything on our YouTube channel of Lab9 Pro, where you can find also our first edition of the Apple Insights sessions we did. And then on the end, we have also something extra. So stay tuned until the end of our webinar. So I think I'm gonna give the mic to Jordi, who prepared some wonderful things about the new products and breakout technologies of Apple.
Thank you, Zeno. So yes, let's take a look at what Apple did in the first quarter of 2025. The first quarter has already passed, and Apple did quite a couple of things. Let's start with smaller things, right? What did Apple do that might have gone under the radar? First and foremost, they sponsored the Super Bowl halftime show. Zeno, are you a fan of American football?
Um, Not exactly. It's not like every weekend I watch American football. I think halftime show and the big show that we saw, yeah, that is something that's highlighted in my agenda.
Not a big fan either, but I do watch the halftime show every year and the commercials as well. And it's the third year that Apple sponsors the actual halftime show, which is one of the biggest entertainment events in the world, right? And they did it like only Apple can. They did some marketing inside the Apple Maps app. But other than that, except for an Apple logo at the start of the halftime show and a free trial at the end, they did no secret marketing in it. They made it just about the music, which I found was really great. If you want to watch the halftime show, you can watch the performance on YouTube or on the Apple TV app. Talking about the Apple TV app, if you would not know, the Apple TV app is available as a standalone app on most smart TVs, and now it comes to Android as well. So if there are people in here with an Android phone, they can log into their Apple TV Plus account and watch the content there. The other way around as well, if you do not have an Apple TV Plus subscription, you can now subscribe using your Google account. You get a 7-day free trial, which is more than enough to watch some content. The content on Apple TV Plus is not that expensive as, for example, Netflix, but there is some quality content there, right? Severance is now a very big thing, but also The Morning Show or Ted Lasso, I really enjoyed trying as well. There's definitely some things on there to watch. Another app that Apple introduced was the Invites app, which is an app to bring people together, right? It allows you to send out invitations. And the difference to other apps is that people can contribute. So you can share pictures and videos that you took at that event, or you can even make a merged playlist for some music. You have to have an iCloud Plus subscription in order to send out the invites, but everyone else can use it. And I think it was Misha from the Mac admins community that used it for the first time like last month, and it worked pretty well. First hardware announcement, and that was a small one, is the Powerbeats Pro 2. Not on the Apple brand, but Apple acquired Beats by Dre a couple of years ago, and they have been increasing the audio performance ever since. The Powerbeats Pro 2 is no different. They now are powered by the Apple H2 chip, which is the same as in the AirPods Pro 2, which means you get the same noise canceling, the same transparency mode. It has very good battery life, 10 hours playback per charge and 45 hours in the case. It's built for athletes, so it comes with the ear hooks, which ensure that they don't fall off your ears, right? And Zeno, have you ever watched the bottom of your Apple Watch and see the two green LEDs emit to measure your heart rate?
Yeah, absolutely. Wonderful thing.
They actually, Apple managed to make that so small so they can actually put it inside the earpiece so they can measure your heart rate whilst you're doing a workout in your ear. Hot off the press that was just announced, well, just released this week on Monday is iOS 18.4, which brings Apple Intelligence on iOS and iPadOS to the EU. So we now have access to all the Apple Intelligence features such as writing tools, image playgrounds, visual intelligence, and more. On the slide, the left iPhone, you see visual intelligence. If you have an iPhone 16, you can press the camera button, press and hold the camera button. If you have an iPhone 16e, you can map that shortcut to the action button. And it allows you to take a picture of something you see and then get information from it. Silly demo on the slide, of course, I took a picture of a can of Coke and you get some info about that, but it works with buildings, with plants, with animals, with pretty much anything you point your camera at. Right side of the screen is then Genmojis. So you can just, if you would like to send a message and you don't find a good emoji to put in it, you can generate one. So if you put it in rainbow cactus, you get a couple of images of a rainbow cactus. Not that interesting for me, but I mean, for the younger people, probably more that. Writing tools is more interesting. This works in every language that Apple Intelligence supports, which since iOS 18.4 now includes German and French, unfortunately not in Dutch yet. But so anywhere where you can select text, you can actually use the writing tools. So you can write your own text and have it be rewritten or change the tone. I use Make Friendly quite a lot, but you can make it more professional or more concise. You can proofread, so it can take out any grammar issues and add punctuation to your text. And on the other hand, you can also summarize. So if you select something, you can get a summary of that text. And I think there's a question, Zeno.
Yeah, I think because on your previous slide, you highlighted as well ChatGPT. And I think this is an interesting one because now I activated myself the Plus account for ChatGPT. So it's integrated in Apple Intelligence. And if you use it in Mail or Pages or whatever, you can use ChatGPT as well. And it works in Dutch. And that is an interesting one.
Okay.
I was testing it this week and I thought maybe I'm going to give it a try because, yeah, we speak normally Dutch or French, but French is any problem for the Apple Intelligence. But if you use ChatGPT and you ask your question in Dutch, then he will reply it in Dutch. But then
Okay.
you have to use the resources of ChatGPT, of course. I use the Plus account. I don't know if it works for the free account, but that works perfectly. So that's maybe a trick to use Apple
Yep.
Intelligence in Dutch.
I did not know that. You learn something every day. Um, Also new are changes to Apple Mail. So now you can let your mails be prioritized. So for example, again, works only in the supported languages, but if you get an important email, for example, a flight notification for check-in, it will be put at the top of your mail app rather than somewhere in between. And your messages will also be summarized. So instead of the hello, Mr. Jordy, line that you see in the bottom of the text, it will actually summarize what the mail is about, and you will have a better understanding of what that mail is. Other way around, you can also use Smart Reply to actually reply to those emails. So if you get an invitation to attend a party, for example, you will be able to use Smart Reply to answer if your partner is coming, yes or no, if you will be driving, yes or no, if you have any allergies, for example, and then send that reply out much faster. Image creation is something that we already spoke a little bit about with Genmoji, but you also gain access to image playgrounds, which is a separate app where you can generate images of something that you think about. So if you, for example, ask for a cherry blossom tree, it will generate that image. More interesting is Image Wand, and you can test it out most easily on an iPad with an Apple Pencil. If you doodle something, you can select it and then have it create an actual image of your sketch, which works pretty well. Now, I did skip some things just to get the webinar to be a little bit shorter, but it speaks for itself that there are management controls for everything that was introduced with Apple Intelligence. So you can restrict Siri, writing tools, image playgrounds, and much more. If you need to, right? I'm not a big fan of restricting things for the sake of restricting it, but if you have a use case to restrict that, all your favorite MDM systems already have the configuration keys to limit that functionality. Also new this week was macOS 15.4. We already had Apple Intelligence on our Macs for quite a while now, but the additional languages are added here in as well, so French and German for us. You get the redesigned Mail app, again with the mail categories in it, and something that you only see if you boot up a new Mac or wipe your device, you can now use Quick Start. So if you ever bought a new iPhone and put your old one next to it, you get the question to Quick Start and then scan a blue bubble. That's coming to the Mac, which is an easy way to set up your system. This functionality can be restricted with an MDM as well. There are quite a couple of quality of life improvements for enterprise, specifically for the network. So, for example, improvements to the rotating MAC address and disabling that, but also improvements to content filters and the functionality and various network protocols. Last but not least, there were over 100 security fixes, so CVE patches in this release. And I found it very cool that in the list of contributors, there was a Belgian company, KBC, so the Belgian bank, which the security team, Dolph and Michiel, discovered a vulnerability in the Shortcuts app, which is now patched, which is great to see, right? I love to see community members in that list. Which brings me to a shameless plug. Please beta test. Everyone with a managed Apple account, so everyone who has access to Apple Business Manager or Apple School Manager, can participate in Appleseed for IT. So you gain access to every beta. Last night, Apple released iOS 18.5 and macOS 15.5, for example. You can start testing that right now. But via Appleseed for IT, you gain access to specific testing plans. So specifically for enterprises, you have more sight on what's changed. You get different change logs as well, so you can see what changed, which can impact your enterprise. And also the feedback that you provide. If you do test betas, please provide feedback. But that feedback is actually sorted in a different bucket, so there's a different team looking into that. Your question will have more weight to it if you test via Appleseed for IT. Gonna show this little video. It's creating a memory movie on the Vision Pro. This is Apple Intelligence functionality, so this works on iOS and the Mac as well. But on Vision Pro, it has somewhat more of an effect. Apple Intelligence now came to the Vision Pro. So for those who have one, you can now use all those features as well. And specifically this one, creating the memory movie, is a little bit more impressive if you do it on a Vision Pro opposed to on your Mac, for example. Another thing that Apple introduced regarding the Vision Pro, and I cannot share the audio because of, well, restrictions, but is the immersive concert of Metallica, which is one of the best immersive contents that they've put out to date. The camera quality was so high. They used various, I think it's 8K downsamples, but immersive cameras to film this, and it's really like you're the only person inside of the concert. It looks really great. If you go to one of our neighboring countries, so that's the UK, France, or Germany, you can ask for a Vision Pro demo, and you can actually ask to just see this immersive video, and they will let you do that. It's definitely worth a watch. Which brings us to the first bigger hardware announcement, starting with the iPhone 16e. And I loved this animation. With most of the hardware announcements, Apple makes a bento box, which kind of combines every announcement for that product into one image. And the team that did this animation went all out to animate it very lovely. So we come to this final slide with the new features of the iPhone 16e. So let's go to the actual slide. This replaces the iPhone SE, right? So the new iPhone 16e is a powerful new member of the iPhone 16 family, and that tagline that Apple uses is very important. Where the iPhone SE was more of a budget phone, right? It costs less, but also had a different hardware, an older hardware design, and it was physically smaller. That's all gone. So the pricing point is a little bit higher for this one. It also shares the same form factor as the iPhone 16, for example. It has the same chip, albeit with one core disabled. It has a great camera with 48 megapixels. It's a dual camera system with one lens, which is new. It has the action button, doesn't have the photo button. And one thing that's new specifically to this iPhone is the Apple C1 modem. Apple acquired the modem division of Intel quite a couple of years ago, and this is the first time that they publicly do something with it. this modem is much more efficient. So you lose some functionality. You don't have Wi-Fi 6E or Wi-Fi 7. You don't have millimeter wave, for example, but it's much more efficient. So you will actually have the longest battery life for any iPhone in this form factor. Next up is the iPad Air. I use the Apple slides for this one just to be a little bit more enthusiastic because it's pretty much just a spec bump. Yes, it now comes with the Apple M3 processor, which is, like Apple says, twice as fast as the iPad Air with M1 or 3.5 times faster than the iPad Air with A14 chip. It's designed with Apple Intelligence in mind, of course. And other than that, there were no changes to this device, right? But you get more value for your money because the price hasn't changed.
Yeah, maybe in an instant you're not so happy or amused about the spec bump for iPad Air, for example. But I like the iPad Air because it exists in the 30-inch model. And that's an interesting one for guys who went on the street for presentations by customers, etc. Then the 30-inch is very important. And you don't need that iPad Pro, that's much expensive one, for the 13-inch. So iPad Air fits in that place, and that's an interesting one for the price and the value that you get. Is a 13-inch very important device for iPad Air, and of course the speed bump of the extra speed is nice. It's a nice to have, but I think the most interesting still for me is the 13-inch model.
Absolutely right. So we'll come back to the screen sizes in a bit, but Apple introduced a new keyboard with it. So now we actually have keyboards in stock. Yay. It still supports the Apple Pencil Pro. It still has Wi-Fi 6E, 5G, only with eSIM and USB-C. But as you said, it comes in two sizes, so 11-inch and 13-inch, which you can have now a big-sized iPad for less price than the iPad Pro. It still has a great battery life at up to 10 hours, and the camera still is the center stage camera, so that works pretty well. Talking about spec bumps, the base iPad was also renewed. So now it's the 11th gen. I think Apple calls it the iPad A16 because it got the A16 processor, which means it's 20% faster than the previous generation and 45% faster than the ninth generation, which is pretty important, I think, for education customers. This is a device that is all over Belgium in many schools. So now there is a very good replacement for that unit. The iPad 9 Gen is becoming a little bit older now, so that's a very good replacement. One thing to note, this is the only device that Apple introduced that does not support Apple Intelligence. So the A16 chip is not capable of running those large language models locally, so that's all disabled. Now, specifically for education, I think that might even be a good thing. So maybe that was done with a reason. It also now starts with 128 gigabyte and at the same price. So you do get a very good iPad with a very low starting price, even lower for education customers. So that's pretty much a given for all our schools. And again, you get the same size, so 11-inch. You get the same 12 megapixel camera, Wi-Fi 6, 5G support if you do get the cellular model. It comes with USB-C, and of course, it has that all-day battery life. My favorite announcement was the MacBook Air. It was introduced with a lovely new color, as you can see here, the gorgeous sky blue color. But it now comes with the M4 processor, right? So the 10-core GPU and CPU that we know from the MacBook Pro, up to 32 gigabytes of unified memory, and the new camera, the center stage camera. What Apple did here was something that I didn't expect Apple to do. They actually lowered the price. So before the introduction of the M4 MacBook Air, you had still the M2 and M3 that were being sold. The M2 was then a little bit cheaper, and now they introduced the M4 at that price. So you actually get more for less money in that regard. You get external display support that was enhanced. So we know that from the MacBook Pro already, but so now you can connect two displays to the MacBook Air with the lid open. So you could, very much like on the picture, I don't know why you would do this, but you could connect two studio displays to that little MacBook Air.
why you shouldn't do that? That's great. That's a great desk environment. I love it.
It's a very nice desk environment.
Yeah, yeah, but I think the interesting one on the MacBook Air is the dual external monitor support because that was a big question from the markets. Obviously, an SMB was a very important one that could provide two external displays.
Yep, absolutely. And like already said, you now also get the center stage camera, so that webcam is better as well. This is really the device for all of our business customers and all of our education customers, right? If you need more horsepower, if you do photo and video editing professionally, yes, you would need a MacBook Pro for that. But for all others, the MacBook Air is a very capable device. It can handle a lot of tasks and at a very interesting price point, especially if you also look at financing, for example, which our sales colleagues can help you with. Talking about horsepower, another device that was renewed is the Mac Studio, which was long overdue, if you ask me. It now comes in the M4 Max variant and the M3 Ultra. Now we already know the M4 Max processor from the MacBook Pro, so I won't spend a lot of time on that. But now we also have the most powerful Mac ever with the M3 Ultra. Just some background information: the Ultra chip in the M series is two Max chips fused together via deep fusion. So for the system, it looks like one processor and one GPU. You can spec it up to 32 cores CPU and 80 core GPU, which is insane. But then most importantly, you can add up to 512 gigabytes of unified memory, which is insane, right? This is the most that I've seen on a local device, specifically at this price point, size, and power level. I'm gonna put up some Apple slide here with some information for benchmarks. But this device is, for example, made for people that do code compiling or also AI, right? You can run the largest local LLMs on that ultra machine with up to 5 and 12 gigabytes of unified memory that you can assign either to the GPU or the CPU, depending on your needs. So that will do great things. You can load models with up to 600 plus billion parameters, which is unseen in the industry for a desktop device. And apparently it is that much faster than the previous generation as well, specifically on everything AI, right? This machine was built with AI in mind. It also comes with Thunderbolt 5. So for connectivity, you do have those 6 Thunderbolt 5 ports, which allow up to 120 gigabit per second transfer speeds. It has PCIe expansion support via enclosures, and it's up to 3 times faster than Thunderbolt 4. Which also means you can connect up to 8 studio displays with that device. So if you do like that setup, you could actually do that. Again, don't know anyone who does, but
I see all the reasons why you should connect 8 displays. Definitely XDR or studio displays.
I'm gonna ask our CEO if I can have that setup.
Yeah, what should happen if you do a FaceTime call with 8 displays? Then you have a 360 environment, maybe.
Yeah, you could.
We
You
can
could.
try.
And that were all the hardware announcements, right? From the iPhone 16e to the Mac Studio. I want to emphasize that these devices are built for enterprise and, of course, for education as well. They are up to 60% more energy efficient. All of them have incredible battery life, are easy to deploy, come with security and privacy built in. They're, of course, compatible with your Microsoft apps. They're ready for AI. And if you do calculate the cost of ownership, which, again, our salespeople can talk to you about, you can save up to 500 euros compared to a PC. Which brings me to this fabulous slide from Apple to say that Apple devices really are best for the users, but also best for IT and best for business. And then there was one more thing that Apple announced, which is WWDC, right? The developers conference that is hosted on the 9th of June 2025. The actual keynote will be broadcast at 7 p.m. our time. If there are any non-Belgium people watching, our time is Brussels. So 7 p.m. our time. And we did already schedule a webinar for that. So we will hold a webinar the week after on Tuesday, the 17th of June, talking about everything that Apple announced at WWDC. So for end users, but also IT alike, because they usually announce a lot of things specifically for enterprise as well. And I wanted to add one thing to the slide, which is a very pixelated, I see, render of a rumor, so this is not official, of iOS 19, which according to the rumors, would get a Vision OS-like design change. You already could see that a little bit if you look at that Invites app, which has a different design language than the other Apple apps. And I think I would really like this if it comes to iOS and macOS as well. That would be pretty great. And of course, we also expect expanded Apple Intelligence in iOS 19.
Great.
All right, and then I don't know if there were any questions in the chat.
Um, Not exactly. Well, I have one. I have one small question of Kevin. Sorry. So there is no physical SIM slots anymore in the iPad A16.
Correct.
Correct. So actually, at this moment, in any iPads anymore,
Only eSIM,
it's only eSIM. So
which is different from the iPhone, where in the US the iPhone has the same. So they took out the SIM card slot in every iPhone in the US. In Europe, they still ship with a SIM card slot there, but I do think that will change somewhere in the future.
yeah, yeah, indeed. So maybe it's gonna change. eSIM is everywhere, even in our Apple Watches. Jill sent me as well. Mystic Quest. I don't know. The application is great for for deployers of developers. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Do you know the?
No, but I'm not much of a developer either. So
Okay.
the only development thing I do is join the lottery of WWDC to be able to attend. But that's the only thing that I do with my developer account. So,
Yeah, okay. Okay, perfect. Yeah, because I saw if you're talking about the Apple TV series receiver, I forgot even the title of the series, but Apple highlighted as well on his Mac page
Yep.
with the devices they use in the series.
Severance. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, also marketing trick as well. Did a
Absolutely.
really good job, even with the Cube and Grand Station in New York as well. They placed a big glass cube, etc. So they did a really nice job. I think the future of Apple at this moment is glass because we see it now in iOS 19. Just I saw a rumor of the next iPhone. I don't know, iPhone 21 or something that should be of glass. Everything should be glass. Maybe the future is glass.
I think that was one thing that Steve Jobs always imagined, right? Having like a single slate of glass in your hand, and that was your iPhone. The iPad is coming close. I mean, it's getting thin enough that it looks like it, but for the iPhone, yeah, that would be nice.
Yeah, maybe a next step within 2 or 3 years. We will see. We'll see. Yeah, we're looking forward to WWDC. We're gonna see some great announcements. I think iOS 19, macOS 16, etc. So it should be brilliant. So just put our date, the 17th of June, in your agenda. It will be at 9 o'clock again that we are planning our webinar. And then, of course, you can watch WWDC on your Apple TV, Apple device at 7 o'clock it was in the evening. So that would be great. At this moment, I don't have any questions. It's wonderful to see how the community interacts with our webinar. So that's brilliant. So this afternoon, the session will be available on our YouTube channel as well. So you can reply. It's constantly actually. I think great content for colleagues as well. So and if you have any questions, of course, give us a shout, send us an email, put our contact form on our website, and then we can give you feedback immediately. I think we had everything.
I think so, right? And like Zeno said, if you need help integrating, managing, securing your Apple devices, feel free to reach out. If you want to look at the total cost of ownership of a Mac device, please talk to our salespeople. They are trained to be able to talk about that and show the studies to indicate that a Mac can actually be cheaper than a Windows computer.
Yeah.
Talk to us, ask us questions. You're more than welcome to.
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe one thing I forgot for the music lovers. Now on Serato, it's possible to use Apple Music in your platform.
So that came with the macOS update as well. So you can now use your Apple Music to integrate to make remixes. We do have a couple of colleagues who are DJs in their
Yeah.
off time, which will probably will use that.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. So also big updates. So yeah, okay. With that, we're gonna end this webinar. Thank you very much for attending this webinar, and hopefully we see each other back the 17th of June on our next Apple Insight session number 3.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye
Bye
bye.
bye.
Have a nice day.